Okay, on the digestive system, I'm going to do 4 videos like I have been doing. I think the shorter ones are better. It's just better than having an hour-long grind of a video. So this part is the introduction. Now, the thing about digestion, what's difficult about it is all the enzymes. When a person eats food, it's usually in the form of these big molecules, polysaccharides, triglycerides, proteins. Those are too big to be absorbed. They have to be broken down to their smallest units. A polysaccharide has to be broken down into monosaccharides. Triglycerides have to be broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Otherwise they cannot be absorbed. So, and with all 4 of the categories, even nucleic acids, which are found in meat, those have to be broken down to nucleotides, and proteins have to be broken down to amino acids. All of this occurs by a process called hydrolysis. It's using water to split big molecules into smaller molecules. It's a form of catabolism. And yes, when you eat food, the teeth chew it up and get it smaller to the point where it can be swallowed and go down the esophagus. But once it reaches the small intestine, and there is some of the digestion that happens even in the mouth, but most of it occurs, the digestion part and the absorption part occurs in the small intestine. So all these enzymes are called hydrolytic enzymes in that they use water to split big molecules into smaller ones.
Digestion begins when food is taken through the mouth, mixed with saliva, and chewed. Structures in the oral cavity work together to break food down into a small mass called a bolus. During the process of swallowing, the tongue rises to the roof of the mouth, directing the bolus out of the oral cavity. The bolus then passes from the oropharynx to the pharynx and into the esophagus. Involuntary muscular contractions, called peristaltic waves, move the bolus down the esophagus and into the stomach. Peristaltic waves continue the mechanical breakdown of food in the stomach. Digested food, mixed with digestive enzymes and acids secreted by the stomach, is called chyme. Enzymes in the small intestine further the chemical process. A small amount of nutrient absorption occurs in the stomach, but most absorption occurs as chyme travels through the sections of the small intestine. The walls of the small intestine are lined with structures that absorb nutrients from chyme and then pass these nutrients into the bloodstream. Some absorption continues in the large intestine. As indigestible waste moves through the structures of the large intestine, it is compacted. The elimination of indigestible waste completes the digestive process.
So the entire digestive tract, it says mouth, throat, all the way through the anus, which is the terminal end of the digestive system. Pretty good picture. I did give you a PowerPoint. This actually separates out what's called the Alimentary Canal. This is a PowerPoint from a textbook. So you can see it all here, and then when you separate the alimentary canal, now these are all accessory organs, salivary glands, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. But all these come down, and well, this all comes down, it's one long tube. And then here's some more accessory organs, pancreas, liver, and then there's the stomach, here's the small intestine. They really shorten that just to make it nice and concise. The small intestine is super long. Colon has some link to it as well.
The autonomic nervous system controls contractions of the alimentary canal that move swallowed food down the esophagus, churn the stomach, and move chyme through the small intestine and large intestine. The alimentary canal is a single continuous tube that includes the oral cavity, esophagus, stomach, and intestines. The tissue layers that form the walls of the tube include 2 layers of smooth muscle. The contraction and relaxation of these muscles is called peristalsis. One peristaltic wave can be enough to move a bolus down the esophagus and into the stomach. In the intestines, the waves are smaller and more regular. As one section of the intestine contracts, the section in front relaxes. This occurs in the rhythmic, wave-like patterns that create the peristalsis that propels substances forward.
That's sort of an introduction to the digestive tract, and what we'll do, we'll go through each section, talk about what it does.
Mechanical and chemical digestion in the stomach results in chyme. Peristaltic waves propel chyme through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum of the small intestine. Finger-like projections called villi line the interior wall of the small intestine. Most absorption of nutrients from ingested food occurs through these. In the small intestine, nutrients in the chyme are further broken down by secretions from organs. Inside each villus are lacteals of the lymphatic system that fatty acids pass into, and capillary beds of the circulatory system into which other nutrients pass. Water and other substances from chyme that are not absorbed move into the large intestine for further absorption, digestion, or elimination.
Accessory organs include teeth, tongue, gallbladder, glandular organs such as the salivary glands, liver, and pancreas. Okay, these are called the accessory organs of the digestive system, and I just clicked on this big giant. This is a salivary gland, a parotid gland. You can see the ones underneath. There's a submandibular. There's one that says the oral cavity right there. Sublingual underneath the tongue. So salivary glands are considered to be an accessory item with the digestive system. What these are organs that assist or they help. They're not directly involved with absorbing nutrients. Now they do help in breaking things down. Now what I'm doing here, this is the liver. So I'm gonna click on something else. There we go. So we have the liver. If you turn it around, you can see underneath here. This way, that's the gallbladder. See our little register there. Here are the bile ducts. Go over those later. I'm going to back this up. I got this turned around. Here is, it's a pretty decent looking one. That whole thing there is a pancreas. All of that is considered, yeah, that's you can see it. You could probably hide this, some of these layers, make it go away so you can get a good look at it. There we go. Looks like a chewed up piece of bubble gum. And you can see that the pancreas has some ducts that connect to the duodenum, small intestine, beginning of the small intestine. So that's a good example, and I believe the rest is the alimentary canal. So that's some of the accessory organs of the digestive system. Okay, so starting here first, that tube I was showing you is called the alimentary canal, starting up here all the way through the terminal end. The tissue, as far as the lining, changes a little bit. It's the same tissue type, or same group, I should say. The tissue types change. Mucosa is the very inside layer, and the serosa is the outside layer. And I put this diagram in, first of all, a lumen. All hollow organs have a lumen. Lumen is the hollow space. Okay, in this case, that's where the food and water would go. Here's the mucosa lining. It's made of epithelium, and you have to remember the esophagus, which was the non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, thick layers. The stomach has a layer of simple columnar epithelium, so that does change. The submucosa is the connective tissue portion of the end. This is the second layer. It has nerves, blood vessels. It has some of the glands that are involved with helping in digestion. Here's the muscularis or muscle layer. There's a longitudinal section that goes lengthwise and can cause it to shorten or even lengthen. And this is a circular level or layer that contracts and squeezes food through the digestive tract. It's called peristalsis. It's where the top part's contracting and there's food moving down and the portion underneath is relaxed. I'm sure everybody's done this. You ever swallow, and tortilla chips are terrible for this. You ever swallow something that you wish maybe you had chewed up just a little bit more and you can feel it moving down the esophagus? That's because of that layer. And then the serosa layer is like a slimy outside layer that also has some of the blood vessels. You can see the yellow's the nerve, blue's a vein, red is an artery. So that's a very outside layer. Here is a computer diagram of the alimentary canal, and that just looks flat out creepy. But there's the esophagus. When I click on it, see it comes down over here on our little, it says oesophagus, but right here, the esophagus. Goes down to the stomach through here, and you can actually see, and I'll show you this again later, you can see the rugae. You can see the rugae inside the stomach, little folds inside the stomach. And then you can also see, go back down, the small intestines. In fact, that's the duodenum. Oh, that's just the ileum, sorry. Duodenum, ileum, interesting. So that goes around, yeah, okay, that's connecting to the colon. And then right here is the duodenum. So all of that is the small intestine. Let me back up. And then here's the colon. That's called the cecum. I wonder if I can, nope. I was hoping I could maybe, it says fade, sort of. That's the beginning of the colon. Colon goes around this way. Here, that's the transverse colon with the Taenia coli. Transverse colon, and then here towards the back, there's the sigmoid colon. Makes a little curve. That's the rectum, and then at the very bottom, that looks like the anal canal. So that's the entire alimentary canal, one long tube. Movements through the canal, the peristalsis I was telling you about, they're wave-like muscle contractions. And the last part of this, the innervation of the canal, digestion is all parasympathetic. It increases digestive activities. It does say it involves the vagus nerve. But the sympathetic nerves that's the fight or flight system. It's going to slow down digestion when it's being active and divert a lot of blood that would go to the stomach for digestion to muscles, lungs, brain, heart, all the things that need for a person to get out of danger. Okay, I'm going to start there next.